It is really extraordinary testimony, not just for the White House, but for the administration itself. There is a suggestion that this was some rogue and irregular channel of foreign policy. And here's Gordon Sondland coming into Congress, presenting emails, saying, no, look at the recipients of these emails. This is Mick Mulvaney on here. This is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He says he went to Vice President Mike Pence and said, hey, there's aid to Ukraine that's been withheld, and I think there might be a link to investigations. And Mike Pence says, okay, I'll talk about it with Donald Trump. So this is an effort by Gordon Sondland to say, I'm not going to be your fall guy. I'm not in this alone. There are a lot of administration officials who I was briefing and advising and who were aware of what was happening.
My personal presumption based on the facts at the time.
And he used the term quid pro quo, which importantly is a term that the president has disavowed and said didn't take place. Gordon Sondland is saying today that there was a quid pro quo in which Ukraine would announce corruption investigations in return for its leaders getting a White House visit, and he said that was absolutely a quid pro quo.
The investigations had to start or had to be completed. The only thing I heard from
the testimony today has certainly created more questions in the sense of we're learning new details, we're seeing new emails, we're being informed of developments and conversations and details that we didn't know about.
30th. By the end of August, my belief was that if Ukraine did something...
Gordon Sondland confirmed a startling phone call that occurred on July 26, where he was in a crowded restaurant in Kiev. And this is a really significant date and conversation because it took place one day after Trump had spoken to Ukraine's president to tell him, I want you to investigate the Bidens. And in the last week, multiple witnesses have said, we were in a restaurant and we overheard Gordon Sondland talking to Trump loudly about investigations. And Sondland says, for sure, I spoke to Trump that day. There's no reason to doubt that I didn't talk about investigations. That would make sense that I would have, because I was aware that was the president and Giuliani's desires. He says, I have no recollection of saying Biden in this conversation.
Acting Assistant Secretary Phil Reeker sent an email to me.
One thing that's really important to note is that Gordon Sondland is the person whose account, more than any other witness, had been challenged by the other witnesses. And so his credibility was already considered suspect, frankly, entering this hearing. So that's going to be something that lawmakers are going to have to untangle, is if somebody had previously not been perceived as the most credible narrator of events, it's not clear that today you go in and suddenly become the most trusted source of information.